All right, everybody. I know I've started this AR series on barrels, and we're going to talk about the next important aspect of your AR, and that is your bolt. Bolts are the heart of your gun. Without a working bolt, your gun is not going to work at all. So if you don't have a good BCG, you're not going to have a good rifle, and this needs to be probably the most reliable part in your gun. Anything goes wrong with this, your gun is going down. So I'm going to show you guys what are some important aspects of a bolt, what to look for, and what parts you should have in your bolt, and good bolts and good manufacturers that sell good bolts. And just to start off, these are both MicroBest BCGs, and I understand that there is a DD logo right there, but they're both made by MicroBest, and the majority of your bolts are made by 5-6 different companies, unless you're like doing Knight's Armament and they make their own. But the majority of your bolts out there are made by about 5 different people. MicroBest, Toolcraft, Aero Precision makes bolts. There's a couple other manufacturers, I'm not sure, but there's not every manufacturer makes their own bolts, I can assure you that. They're all mass produced by a couple companies, and that's it. So we're going to start off. I'm going to disassemble these, and I will say the DD one is my primary bolt, and this is my backup bolt. Both are extremely similar in build. I think the only difference is my cam pin, and that's it. My backup BCG came from my backup gun, which I no longer have. So this one's apart, and my primary bolt. And we could talk about the carrier for a second. You know, a lot of you guys, I see this all the time actually. I see people that just lob these up in grease, and there's really no reason to be just throwing grease all over your bolt. You're not gonna need to do that. You don't need to do that. What you need to do is find the wear patterns on your bolt to see where you need to put the grease. As you can see on this bolt, the wear pattern is here on the top rail, top front rail, top back rail, a little bit on the gas key, which means that either the upper is slightly canted or this is slightly canted. It's not a super big deal, as these grooves are not felt with your finger, so it's, you know, just wear on one side, which means, yeah, the gas key is canted ever so slightly because there's wear right here and there's wear right here, so meaning it's cocked ever so slightly to the right, or the upper is just out of spec. I'm gonna just assume that the gas key is slightly canted, but it's not a big deal, happens. You should be lubing this part right here, this top rail, the back rail, this bottom rail right here, and this bottom rail on this side, and that's it. You don't need to put lube here. You don't need to put lube on this side. This actually doesn't even touch your upper receiver at all. I will say you could put a little lube on the back of this, but this is really just hitting the buffer. And then what I highly recommend if you plan on buying a new bolt or you need a bolt is buying a chrome line bolt or buying a chrome bolt in general. I would not fall for all these gimmicky coated bolts, as it's just a straight gimmick. I would say the best coating is probably just an all chrome bolt. I wish I knew that at the time purchasing my bolts. I wasn't aware. This is just a phosphate coated bolt, and it works great. It's just a little harder to clean. I will say if you have a full chrome bolt, it's going to be super easy to maintain, as gunk or carbon is just going to fall right off. And as you can see, it's even slightly dirty in there. I'd probably need to clean this at some point. Yeah, definitely a little dirty. But anyways, The keys are super duper important. The bolts are super duper important. The most important part is going to be the tolerances in here and the tolerances in the back where your gas rings are and where the gas is. Another thing is your gas rings are also super important, as they would seal the bolt to the carrier. So this is super duper important. Make sure, I see this all the time, you people don't ever change your gas rings, and it's unfortunate, but it happens, man. And a good way to test that is pull your bolt out, set it like this, just don't have it fall on you, and just set it like this, and if it collapses on, you need to new a new gas rings. I mean, in reality, that's not even the best way to test it. It's just to change your gas rings when you need to change your gas rings, and that's it. But that's the best way to do it. Another thing I always see, and this is notorious, even Microbest, is this right here, the extraction spring and the little detent that goes in there. You don't need the detent and the rubber ring that goes around it. As a matter of fact, what I highly recommend a lot of you do is actually buy a Springco spring. Now, this is not hard to change at all. You could literally take a needle nose plier and you pull this out, you pull the old one out, and you put a new Springco 4-coil or 5-coil in. If you're putting a 4-coil in, you need to use the rubber O-ring or the detent, which it says on the directions. Don't use both. If you go to their 5-coil spring, which I would recommend if you have if you're shooting an SBR, so if you're shooting 11.5, 12.5, 10.5, 10.3, or anything under 10.3, go to the 5-coil, please. Anything larger than 13 inches, just use the 4-coil with a detent. It helps. It helps with extraction tremendously. Also, while you're playing with the bolt, you might as well change your ejector spring as well. These are notoriously for getting weak, and I know a lot. This is also highly dependent on how much you shoot. So if you're shooting a lot, and I mean like thousands of rounds a year, you're gonna have to change your springs pretty decently. I will say most of your AR stuff is probably 5,000, 10,000 intervals, depending on how much abuse it is, depending if you're full autoing or not. I know this is just not, I know on YouTube we got people outside of New York watching these videos. So if you're full autoing, it's way higher. For me, I'm pretty anal about my stuff. Every 5,000 rounds, new gas rings, new extractor spring. The detent you could probably keep in there, nothing crazy, but you know, it's just preventative maintenance. The only thing I really don't change is the ejector spring until probably like 10,000 rounds. That spring is pretty strong. Also, Springco sells that as well. Springco sells a whole entire kit actually, which I highly recommend, and it's pretty damn cheap. You know, changing these springs is super cheap. Another thing, if you guys are cheaping out on bolts, you need to make sure that the tolerances, and there are specific tools to check this, you need to make sure that this hole is not elongated, and when you shove the cam pin in there, that it doesn't have play in it a significant amount. Like, I understand if you do this and it'll rock back and forth, but you shouldn't also be able to not put your cam pin in backwards either. That's you need a new bolt if that's happening. Another thing I highly recommend is making sure that your cam pin goes in the same way. Forward Controls and some of the American Rifle have made an MP3 cam pin. MP3 is a very resistant coating that helps prevent tons of wear. And as you see, I don't think this cam pin even has a significant amount of wear on it compared to probably that one. But I think that one's brand new, and I don't think I've really put enough rounds on that to have wear. But Forward Controls makes this awesome. It allows you just to orientate your cam pin the proper direction every time you take it apart. Firing pins, these are another topic of discussion on. I've already broken a firing pin. Most firing pins are stainless steel, and after I broke it, I didn't want to use another stainless steel, and also a lot of firing pins are actually out of spec, I've noticed. If you watch Son of the American Gunner, he actually goes over that. He goes actually over all this stuff, and that's where a lot of my knowledge has come from. Not to parrot what he's saying, but I know some of you don't know who he is or what he does. Son of the American Rifle on YouTube, great guy, awesome. Goes over just a lot of stuff that you need to know about ARs, especially the bolt, barrels, low receivers, upper receivers, anything that's out of spec. And I will tell you that some of these high quality names, high end brand names, they make out of spec too. It's just not the cheap guys, but I will say there's a lot of cheap stuff that's a lot out of spec. So this is a JP titanium firing pin, and I went with it because it's hardened. It's lighter, so you get more